The harsh white lights above flickered, pulling him from a deep dark place. His mind felt like it was floating, untethered, like a cloud drifting in an endless sky. Slowly his senses began to sharpen, though everything felt foreign. He could hear the soft beep of a machine to his left, and the faint scent of antiseptic filled the air. But none of it made sense. Where was he? How had he gotten here? His eyes snapped open, and panic surged through him as his gaze darted around the room. The sterile walls, the IV drip in his arm, a pulse monitor beside him. His throat tightened, but he couldn't quite remember why he was afraid. The confusion only deepened as he tried to sit up. His body felt weak, like it hadn't been used in a long time. A soft voice broke through the fog. "Hey, take it easy," a woman said gently. Her presence was calming, warm. He turned his head to find her standing beside his bed. Her name tag read Emily. Her smile was kind, though her eyes held a flicker of concern. "You're in the hospital," she explained, her tone reassuring but soft. "You've been unconscious for a while. You're safe now." The man's brow furrowed, but the words didn't make sense to him. He tried to speak, but his mouth felt dry. Fear rose again, making his heart pound in his chest. Who was he? Why was he here? "I'm sorry. I caused," his voice barely a whisper. I don't know who I am." Emily's face softened. She placed a hand on his arm, grounding him. "It's okay. You're not alone. We'll figure this out." But for now there was only one name they could call him. John Doe, and with that name his uncertain journey began. Over the following days Emily couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to John Doe's story than met the eye. At first he was quiet and distant, his eyes often drifting out the window as if he were searching for something he couldn't quite find. His movements were slow, deliberate, as if he were trying to piece together his own body again. He never complained, never asked for much. It was as though he had forgotten how to ask for help, or perhaps didn't believe anyone would give it to him. Despite his silence, there was a deep sadness in his eyes. He never spoke about it, but it was there, lingering like a shadow just out of reach. Every time Emily checked on him, he would give her a polite but distant smile, his gratitude genuine but wrapped in an unspoken sorrow. One evening, after her shift, Emily sat at the nurse's station, her mind racing. She'd spent countless hours trying to piece together who John could be. His name, John Doe, was a label, nothing more. She'd checked his belongings, but there was nothing. No wallet, no phone, no personal items. It was as if he had simply appeared out of nowhere. That night, unable to stop herself, Emily did something she rarely did. She took a few minutes to look him up online. But there were no matches. No missing persons, no reports. The more she searched, the more she felt like she was getting closer to something, though she couldn't explain what. There was just this nagging feeling, deep in her gut, that John Doe's memory loss wasn't the whole story. There was something hidden beneath the surface, something important, and Emily was determined to find out what it was. One evening, as the hospital settled into the quiet hum of late-night activity, Emily entered John's room to check on him. The soft light from the hallway filtered in through the blinds, casting long shadows across the sterile walls. She paused at the doorway, noticing that John was sitting up in bed, his eyes closed, his lips moving as though he was speaking to someone, or perhaps remembering something. Then, she heard it, the soft haunting melody of a lullaby. It was a song she had heard before, though she couldn't place where. It was gentle, filled with both tenderness and an aching sadness, the kind of song a parent might sing to their child. John's voice, barely above a whisper, was steady as he hummed the tune. He seemed so lost in the music, his face softening in a way that suggested it held deep personal meaning for him. Emily stood frozen for a moment, listening, the tune stirring something in her chest. She couldn't explain why, but it felt familiar, too familiar. She had to know more. The moment passed, and John fell silent, blinking as if waking from a trance. Emily cleared her throat and stepped into the room. "That song, where did you learn it?" she asked, her voice gentle. John's eyes flickered with a mixture of confusion and sadness. I don't know," he said softly, as if ashamed of the inability to recall something so simple. "It just comes to me." But it was the tattoo on his wrist that caught Emily's attention the most. The bandages covering his arm had shifted, revealing part of a design, an intricate faded image of a bird, the edges curling like a delicate vine. She'd seen something similar before, but where? The answer came a few days later, when a volunteer named Tom, a regular at the hospital, stopped by to visit a friend. Tom had a keen memory for details, and when he overheard Emily humming the lullaby, his face paled. "Wait a minute," Tom said, his voice tight with recognition. "That song. It's the one from that missing soldier story. The one with the tattoo, the father who disappeared." Emily's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? The moment Tom mentioned the missing soldier, something inside Emily clicked. Her heart raced as she walked back to the nurse's station, her mind spinning with possibilities. The lullaby, the tattoo, the strange familiarity of it all, it was too much of a coincidence. Could it be? Could John Doe be the soldier from that old news story? As soon as her shift ended, Emily went straight home. She couldn't shake the image of the tattoo on John's wrist, the way it seemed to match the description of a soldier who had vanished 5 years ago. Her fingers trembled as she sat at her kitchen table, pulling up her laptop. She typed into the search bar, "Missing Soldier 2019 Tattoo Lullaby Daughter." Her breath caught in her throat when she saw the headline, "Soldier Presumed Dead After Explosion, Lullaby the Only Link to Daughter." Emily clicked on the article, her eyes scanning the words as if she couldn't read fast enough. The article told the story of a soldier named Daniel Carter, who had been part of a peacekeeping mission overseas. After a deadly explosion during a mission, Daniel had been presumed dead. His wife had tragically mourned him, and eventually she remarried. His daughter, who was just a baby when Daniel left, had grown up hearing a lullaby he used to sing to her, though her mother never spoke of it much. The only tangible thing left of Daniel was the tattoo he had gotten before he left, a bird perched on a vine, wrapping around his wrist. The details of the story matched perfectly with what she had seen on John's wrist. Emily leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. Could it really be him? Could John, the man who woke up with no memory, be Daniel Carter, the soldier thought to have died 5 years ago? The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. If it was true, John had lost everything, the life he had once known, his family, his place in the world, and now, he was struggling to remember who he was. What if she was wrong? What if she was chasing a wild theory? She swallowed hard, anxiety creeping up her spine. The fear of being wrong was overwhelming, but the possibility of being right. It was almost too much to bear. What would happen if she found him? If Daniel Carter really was alive, could he ever fit back into the life he'd lost? Would his family even want him back after all this time? The following morning, Emily entered John's room with a mix of trepidation and resolve. She had spent the night wrestling with the truth of what she suspected. She knew that approaching him about this would be delicate. If he truly was Daniel Carter, the soldier thought to be dead, it could shatter the fragile sense of identity he had begun to rebuild. But she had to know for sure. She couldn't go on wondering. "John," she began softly, pulling a chair beside his bed, "there's something I need to talk to you about." He looked at her, his eyes clouded with confusion, but trust. He had become so used to Emily's presence, her calm reassurance. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice quiet, almost hesitant. Emily took a deep breath. "It's about the lullaby, the one you've been humming. I did some research, and I found a story that might explain why it sounds so familiar. A soldier named Daniel Carter, presumed dead 5 years ago. He had the same tattoo you have, and he sang that same song to his daughter." John blinked, his face unreadable. She couldn't tell if the name meant anything to him, or if it was just another story that he couldn't connect with. She pressed on gently, trying to meet his eyes. "Do you remember anything about it? About a little girl, a woman's voice? Maybe your wife?" The room felt heavy as John's expression shifted, his face twitched, a flicker of recognition lighting up his eyes for just a moment. He closed them tightly, his hands clutching the sheets, as if trying to hold on to something that was slipping away. Then, in a barely audible voice, he murmured, "A little girl, I remember her laugh. And terror, her mother's voice. Calling me." Tears welled up in his eyes, as the memories seemed to flood back, too much for him to handle. His body trembled, and his chest heaved with the weight of it all. I can't remember more. It's all broken, so broken. Emily reached out to comfort him, but he recoiled, overwhelmed by the rush of emotions. She gave him a moment before softly suggesting, John, or Daniel if you are him, we could do a DNA test. It could confirm who you really are. You don't have to do this alone. He looked at her, fear and uncertainty written all over his face. He didn't answer, but the way his hands clenched the sheets told Emily everything. The weight of the truth was too much, and yet, it seemed inevitable. Days passed in a blur of quiet anticipation. Emily could feel the tension in the air every time she saw John, no Daniel, lying in the hospital bed, his body still weak, but his mind racing with the possibility that he was someone else entirely. It was as if the weight of the world rested on that one, final confirmation. They had sent off the DNA samples days ago, and now, Emily waited, knowing that the truth was on its way, one way or another. The call came on a rainy afternoon. Emily was sitting at the nurse's station when her phone rang. Her heart skipped a beat when she saw the number flash across the screen. It was the lab. She picked it up quickly, her voice steady but her hands trembling. Hello, this is Emily. Miss Henderson, the voice on the other end asked. We have the results for the DNA test you requested. Emily's throat tightened. Yes. Is it him? Is it really him? There was a brief pause. Yes. The DNA results confirm that the patient you referred to as John Doe is indeed Daniel Carter. He is the soldier who went missing 5 years ago. The words hit Emily like a punch to the gut. Daniel Carter was alive. After all these years, after everything, he was back. But as she absorbed the news, a quiet sadness crept into her chest. There was so much he had lost. When she returned to Daniel's room to tell him, she found him sitting by the window, staring out at the rain. He didn't even look up when she entered, but she could feel the anticipation in the air. He knew something was coming. Daniel, Emily said softly, her voice barely a whisper. The results are in. He turned slowly, his eyes searching her face. She held up the piece of paper, the official confirmation in her hands. You are Daniel Carter, you've been missing for 5 years. Your wife Sarah, remarried after you were presumed dead. Your daughter Lily, she's 10 now. For the longest time Daniel just stared at her, his face unreadable. Then, slowly he sank back against the bed, his eyes filling with tears. I've missed so much, he whispered, his voice breaking. So much time lost. Emily could see the grief on his face, the weight of the years he had missed, and the family he no longer knew. But there was something else too, relief. He wasn't just a man without a past anymore, he was Daniel Carter, and though the road ahead was uncertain, at least he knew who he was. I'm so sorry, Emily said quietly, not knowing what else to say. But in that moment, she knew the truth had freed him in a way. It wasn't the end of his story, it was just the beginning. The days after the DNA results felt like a blur to Daniel. His mind was still reeling from the confirmation of who he was, but there was one thing that consumed him now, the thought of meeting his daughter again. Emily had arranged for him to reunite with Lily, his 10-year-old daughter, in a quiet, private room at the hospital. He hadn't seen her since she was a baby, and now, he was a stranger to her. The thought of it terrified him. What if she didn't remember him? What if she didn't want to know him? The uncertainty weighed heavily on him, but Emily was there, always steady by his side, offering quiet words of encouragement. She assured him that they would take things slowly, that Lily would be just as nervous as he was. The moment arrived. Emily stood beside him, as they waited for Lily to be brought in. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest, his palms sweaty with anticipation. When the door opened, he barely recognized the little girl who stepped into the room. She was taller now, her hair long and curly, but her eyes, those were the same. They locked onto him immediately. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Daniel's throat constricted, and Lily seemed frozen, unsure of how to react. Then, slowly, Lily took a step forward, her voice trembling. "Daddy?" she asked, as if testing the word. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. It was the first time he'd heard the word in years. Lily, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Tears filled her eyes as she ran to him, and for the first time in so long, Daniel allowed himself to cry. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight, as if afraid she might slip away again. They stayed like that for a long time, the world outside fading away. It was a bittersweet reunion. There was so much time lost, so much to rebuild, but there was also hope. Daniel had his daughter back, and for the first time in 5 years, he felt like he had a purpose again. In the days that followed, Daniel began to rebuild his life. Emily stayed by his side, offering support as he navigated the complicated emotions of reconnecting with his family. Slowly, the pain started to fade, replaced by the slow, steady promise of new beginnings. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was one he no longer had to walk alone, and with Emily's help, Daniel began to find peace, not in forgetting his past, but in learning to live with it, and move forward. Thank you for watching this emotional journey of hope, healing and discovery. Daniel's story reminds us that no matter how lost we feel, there's always a chance to find our way back to who we truly are. Through the support of kind-hearted people like Emily, and the courage to face the past, even the most painful experiences can lead to new beginnings. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Subscribe for more heartfelt tales and unforgettable moments, and be sure to share this story with someone who might need a little reminder of the power of second chances. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, take care and keep believing in new beginnings.